Okay, today we're going to be chatting about the Nike Vomero 18, which has been getting a lot of attention in running circles recently. So we're going to get to the bottom of whether this is worth talking about or whether it's just some more Nike hype and Nike fans are just happy that they've got something which is vaguely runnable for once. So we'll go through it top to bottom, chat about the price point, the competitors as well, help you decide whether you should buy this or go for something else. This is a high stacked cushion daily trainer sitting at the bottom of the Vomero lineup. Got the Structure, the Pegasus, the Vomero. We're eventually going to have the Vomero Plus and the Vomero Premium sitting above it, but this is the kind of entry-level, stock standard, high cushion daily trainer. In terms of specs, we've got 46mm of foam in the heel with a classic 10mm drop. Not a lot of rocker into this midsole, quite a flat, flexible forefoot as far as max cushion trainers go. Weighing in at 324 grams in my men's size 10.5, which is definitely on the heftier side of things. Most daily trainers for my size are coming in around that kind of 290 gram mark, but as a max cushion shoe, that can be forgiven. The midsole is made up of mostly React X EVA foam, which is a more firm, kind of dense, responsive foam. Not responsive in terms of bounce, but kind of quite immediate in the bounce that it does give back. And we do have this tiny frame of Zoom X running up around the edge of the midsole, which I'm not persuaded is doing a whole lot for the ride, despite the fact that they've plastered it on the side of the midsole. In terms of the upper, we have a simple, plush, comfortable training shoe upper here. Plenty of structure in the heel counter, padding in and around there keeps it quite comfortable. The tongue is fantastic. Again, quite a wide tongue as it was with the Pegasus Premium, which means that it stays put very, very nicely, protects your feet from the laces as well. The upper mesh is very comfortable, but they have double layered it, so we have this kind of more breathable outer layer with an inner, more kind of soft, comfortable feeling material. It is very nice on foot, but I do think that if they wanted to make something a little bit more, I guess, performance-based, a bit more breathable, especially in the Australian summer, they probably could have thinned it out a little bit more. In terms of sizing, I have gone true to size, men's size 10.5, which works for most Nike shoes. I would say though, it's not the most accommodating fit. I've seen some people suggesting that this is a wide foot friendly shoe. I actually disagree. I think other Nike shoes like the Zoom Fly 6 and even the Alpha Fly have a more accommodating toe box shape, more kind of rounded, almost squared off. This is a little bit more traditional in terms of having that tapering on that outside edge. I would not suggest this for wide footers, especially wide forefooters. Overall for me, this is a simple, plush, comfortable daily training upper which doesn't sacrifice on lockdown. I do think that the snug toe box might isolate a few people, but other than that, I think this is going to work for a wide variety of runners. Moving down to the midsole, this combination of React X midsole foam with a tiny bit of Zoom X on top gives a kind of deep, dense, resilient feeling midsole right underfoot, which is overwhelmingly stable, overwhelmingly simple, and I think that's okay. I think a few people have been getting a little bit carried away with what this shoe feels like. I think they're just so delighted that Nike has a decent trainer that they're kind of going out of their way to talk about how bouncy and energetic and versatile it is. I haven't felt that at all on my runs. Sure, it gives enough back to keep you moving, and I do think it relies a lot on the 10mm heel pitch to kind of keep tipping you forward, and I do like the flatter forefoot as well with a bit more flexibility. It makes me feel like I'm a little bit more in control of what the shoe is doing. With shoes like the Glycerin Max or even the Mag Max a little bit, I felt like the rocker of the shoe kind of locks you in through the stride, and it really took its time to get through toe off. Whereas with a flat forefoot, a little bit more flexibility, the 10mm heel pitch, I feel like I'm a little bit more encouraged to kind of keep moving through the shoe. But as I said, it's not a super engaging, exciting, bouncy shoe. This is an absorber of your energy. It kind of soaks in the force and kind of portions off a tiny little bit of bounce back, just enough to keep you moving, but not enough to kind of encourage you to pick up the pace. A lot of people have been saying that it runs lighter than it feels in hand, and I do agree. Although this shoe is quite heavy, 324 grams, I don't think it feels quite that bad on the run, but definitely when it's compared to other trainers which are going sub 300 or even getting lighter towards shoes like a Neo Zen, Super Blast, that kind of thing, you definitely do notice that extra bulk, and it definitely kind of shows after about 45 minutes of running when it does just feel a little bit cumbersome to keep moving along. It is not, I think the best way to describe this shoe for me is just simple, stable, effective. It's durable as well. This midsole foam is going to go a long distance, and I think that is great for Nike. I don't think you need to reinvent the wheel with every release that you make. They've got room now with the Vomero Plus and the Vomero Premium to do something exciting. But as far as a simple, stable shoe to entice newer runners, or just give a kind of simple, effective shoe for more experienced runners who want something to put in a rotation, I think this is doing a really good job. In terms of the discussion around the Vomero, I do think it is maybe a little bit overhyped. I think there's other shoes which have been out for a fair bit longer, which are doing a very similar job to the Vomero, which just don't have the same kind of name to them. I'll jump the gun a bit. The Magnify Nitro 2 is completely underhyped for what it's offering. It's got a very similar kind of more firm, dense, resilient feel. It's 30 grams lighter though. It has a great outsole grip. The upper is absolutely comfortable as they come. And I do think that this shoe doesn't get as much praise as it deserves. It's the same price point as well. So people will come out and say that the Vomero 18 is reinventing the simple high cushion daily trainer, but there has been shoes out there which have been doing the same thing for a little bit longer. So I'm not bitter about that, or maybe a little bit. I do think this shoe needs more hype, but I do think that there is maybe just a little bit too much excitement for what this shoe is actually offering in terms of the running experience. In terms of recommendations for this shoe, I would say this is a really nice shoe to chuck a beginner in terms of being quite stable, being quite comfortable, being quite durable and cost effective as well. Beginners can't really be affording to jump into things which are going to last 400, 500 Ks. It's good to have something which can kind of be by their side for a good period of months as they train towards their first race or their first kind of event. And I think this shoe can really do a good job there. As well as that, I think for the more experienced runners who maybe have some more exciting, nimble trainers out there, like a Pegasus Plus or a Neo Zen, other shoes that they're using for their more kind of up-tempo training, this could be a nice alternative for those kind of slow, plodding, easy runs, warm-ups and cool-downs, where you just need something which is just going to soak up a bit of mileage. Overall, it's simple, it's effective, it's decent, but I wouldn't go out of my way and say that this is great and it's kind of fantastic and engaging. It's not quite there, but I do think it is probably worth a little bit of a mention. Moving down to the outsole, the waffle grip here, I think is employed perfectly. I've had a bit of issues in the past with Nike shoes which have this kind of big slathering of rubber, the Pegasus, some of the Infinity runs as well. They just make the shoe super slappy and clompy and heavy as well. The fact that they've segmented this rubber up, the fact that they've left some exposed midsole foam which has taken absolutely no damage at all, I think this React X foam is almost good enough that you could use it as an outsole because it is just so kind of, yeah, firm and hardy. I think this is a really good outsole from Nike. It's got that kind of bite to it in the forefoot, and it's got the protection in the heel from that kind of hard heel strike that some people are going to get with a 10mm drop shoe. But overall, it doesn't lean too hard into it, and I think it's that perfect balance of being smooth onto the road, a little bit more adaptable, but still fairly durable and grippy. Moving to the price point, we actually have a price drop here, which is very unusual these days. This shoe has gone from $240 last version down to $220, which I think shows Nike's intention to kind of be a little bit more aggressive in that kind of entry-level daily trainer space, try capture a little bit more of a wider audience, get back into the running kind of psyche, because right now, I think they're a little bit out of it. I think $220 is fantastic, and I think that's what really seals the deal with this shoe. Although I might not be as enthusiastic about it as some people, I think the price point is what really kind of galvanizes this shoe as a really competitive option. There's other shoes out there like a Glycerin Max, like a Mag Max, Nimbus 27, which all have quite a similar kind of high stacked cushion feel. Shoes which aren't particularly versatile, I would say. And I think that Vomero is doing a good job of undercutting them, offering a really good price advantage, even if it isn't quite living up to the standards of performance from those shoes. I think the Mag Max has a nicer, more energetic foam. The Glycerin Max is definitely more protective. The Nimbus, probably a little bit nicer in the foam department as well, but it's pretty hard to argue when you've got 50 or even $130 cheaper compared to the Glycerin Max. This really is just kind of being a little bit cheeky with its price point, which I think is quite nice to see. I would say that if you're on a budget and you kind of want that stock standard daily trainer, cushion daily trainer, speed shoe, racing shoe, this could be that kind of budget max cushion trainer. I think it could do a really good job in that spot. Getting into a couple of comparisons, I mentioned a few then. The Puma Mag Max Nitro, I think, is a nicer shoe than the Vomero 18. A little bit more energy to the midsole, a little bit more punch, a bit more versatility in terms of just being able to push 10, 15 seconds faster on daily training runs, whereas this shoe, I did feel held me back towards the end of an hour and 20-minute run. I do think that that kind of $50 price point difference is representative of the difference in performance. If you're not super fussed about a little bit of extra bounce or a little bit of extra energy, I think the Vomero 18 will do a great job. But if you want a bit more of a kind of, I don't know, a bit more of an exciting ride underfoot, I think the Mag Max could still be worth that extra $50. Then we've got the Glycerin Max, which, as I mentioned, felt a little bit slow because of that long, slow rocker. I did enjoy the foam in it a little bit more than the Vomero, but I felt a little bit trapped in that kind of rockering sensation. I much enjoyed the 10mm drop with a flat forefoot, which made this shoe feel a little bit more controllable. $350 versus $220 for the Vomero 18 is a complete embarrassment as well. Brooks just need to pull their head in and put an actual price point on their shoes, which is relevant, rather than just going and trying to see how much they can get out of their loyal fans. A couple more daily trainers which I've got here. We've got shoes like the Nova Blast, not super similar, but people are gonna ask me. This is softer, a little bit more bouncy, a bit more flexible as well, fair bit lighter as well. It's like 260 grams in my men's size 10.5 compared to 324. Much more versatile, much more fun. But in terms of that kind of slow, plodding daily trainer, I probably actually prefer the Vomero 18 just because it's a bit more resilient, whereas I felt like the Nova Blast 5, I kind of sunk into. It was a little bit mushy. It's not my favorite shoe out there right now. Then we've got the Saucony Ride 18, which is another wide-based, stable daily trainer, both coming in at a similar price point, $220, $230. Both are going to be very durable. This TPU foam just lasts forever. I think this is a really nice update from Saucony. This is a little bit lighter, a little bit more nimble. I think the upper is nicer as well. The 17, there was just something off about it. I think this has a bit more versatility, a bit more kind of nimble, flat, simple geometry. Just means you can kind of put a bit of force into it, let the foam respond, whereas you do get a little bit more sink in the Vomero 18, plus a bit of extra weight. I think if you want your standard daily trainer, go for the Ride 18. If you want a bit more cushion, go for the Vomero 18. And then finally, we have the Puma Magnify Nitro 2. Might not come as much surprise what I'm gonna say here. This is a very, very good shoe, and I think it's actually a fair bit better than the Vomero 18. It's about 30 to 40 grams lighter. I think the midsole foam has more energy to it. I think it's got a similar enough geometry in terms of being fairly flat up front, just a slight rocker to keep you moving along. The outsole grip is comparable, the upper comfort is comparable, and I just think that this is a little bit more versatile while being just as comfortable. This is also on discount in a lot of different spots. You can pick this up for as low as $140, $150. This is one of my favorite cushion daily trainers of all time, and I didn't even pay that much for it in the first place. Nike fans will probably still go for the Vomero, but if you're after that kind of cheap, effective, high cushion daily trainer, really encourage you to check out the Puma Magnify Nitro 2 as well. So yeah, overall, Vomero 18 is decent, it's nice, it's comfortable, it's stable. I think it's going to be a democratic shoe as well. It's going to work for a wide variety of people. There's nothing that's really offensive about it other than maybe the weight and the kind of lack of versatility. There's going to be some people who jump into this seeing the Zoom X written on the edge and they think, mate, it's going to be bouncy, it's going to be punchy. I'm going to be able to use it for my tempo runs. It isn't quite that, but I do think for what it's worth, it's doing its job well at a good price point with some good durability, with some decent looks as well. I think this is quite a nice looking shoe. And for that, I think Nike need to be congratulated. It will be interesting to see how they move forward from here with the rest of the Vomero line. The Vomero Plus kind of shaping up to be a true Nike Invincible replacement. And then the Vomero Premium with some AirPods, with some Zoom X. Are we going to get a nice long range, long run shoe, up tempo, kind of pacier model? I don't really know. It's going to be interesting to see what happens, but I think this is a good starting point at a good price point. Well done, Nike.